Welcome back. This is Answer Me This, part of our mini-series from Friday Fuel and the Fatherhood in Focus podcast. I'm Aidan and I'm the founder of the Modern Fatherhood Club, and it's great to have you here. Before we continue, I want to remind you to subscribe if you like what you're hearing. You can subscribe to the podcast, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and for all our resources, you can grab those on themodernfatherhoodclub.com, and you can join us at the Modern Fatherhood Club. If you purchase any of our products, you get instant access to all our free resources. I'm Aidan and this is Answer Me This, and we're going to push you harder this week. We're going to really focus on the importance of your role and how you can continue to show up and have the impact and influence that you want to have on those young lives that you're shaping. Let's get started. So this week it's, are you raising your kids to be strong or just safe? I want you to let that rest for a minute. This is aimed at boy dads, but in today's crazy world, it's aimed at you girl dads too. Why is this question a hard one? Because you need to understand what masculinity means to you. You need to understand the man that you are, the man or men that shaped you. You need to understand the husband, partner, or even ex-partner that you are. You need to understand the father you are and the father that you're prepared to become. This episode and every episode has been crafted to make you think, but not every show can talk positively. Sometimes we need to lay it all out and look at what we have, what we're providing, and importantly, open the door and look outside. Because what shapes children today isn't only you and your influence, it's the media, social or news cycles. It's the minute-by-minute playbook on everything. Analysis to the point that there's nothing left to analyse. It's overthinking for the sake of it. It's creating an environment where we start to question who we are. We compare ourselves to others. We complain about it, but we don't challenge it or force change. We live in a world dominated by the few, and that the person who speaks loudest is given the microphone for the longest time. Why? Because they dominate the room. They don't listen, but they have an opinion on everything. Today's world, I'm afraid, lacks authenticity. There's a distinct lack of interest in the truth. We'd rather idolise someone we know little about than look closer to home. We're judging our parents more than ever. As parents, we're doing everything in our power to protect our kids. But what are you protecting them from? So let me ask you this question. What world are your children growing up in? What's influencing the mood in your home? What's influencing them? Do you know what makes them tick? What motivates them? What is it that they enjoy? Where do their strengths lie? And do you let them play to those strengths? Now, you might be early into your fatherhood journey, but these questions still remain important because we're investing in their future. What we show them, our tone, the words we use, the action we take or fail to take, even the mistakes we make, all shape who they become. So my follow-up question before we dive into this episode is this: does their future frighten you? Is what they learn now going to advance them tomorrow? If you look at the technology today and the speed of change, are we ready for it? Is the environment that we're putting them into ready for it? And do the same skills, values, and behaviours still matter? So, are you raising your kids to be strong or just safe? This week's question stopped me in my tracks. When I sit down to write this and pull a plan together, it's easy enough to do. But this week, I needed to be clear on what they needed to navigate today, tomorrow, and whatever is on that horizon. Both my boys are in school. Maxie now in year 1 and Henry's going into year 4. With Maxie, everything is new. It's exciting. He thrives off praise and loves to help others and willingly gets involved. He's confident, outgoing, friendly, and he has this deep-rooted love for other people that comes with innocence, but also he takes after mum. He has this heart of gold. He loves with such intensity. Henry, he's a little cooler, but he'll cuddle when he's ready or if he's looking for an apology or looking to make one. The difference between them is stark. Maxie's easygoing, yet hard-headed. Henry wants to be included, and he's a thinker with a short fuse. But this is the challenge we face as parents. Our children are very different. They adapt situations in their own way. School is that challenge for the boys right now. I'm not in that position to put my kids in private school. I'm not in that place where we could homeschool. So every morning, like you, I'm packing them off to be shaped and influenced by people entrusted to develop young minds. But as an outsider, all I see is overworked and over-tested kids and teachers. For me, the bigger question has been this: what do my kids need today to help them realise their potential in the future, and what part do I play? This is what I want. I want them to take risks, take on new challenges, try new things, and get back up when they fall down. I want them to become better versions of me, more adaptable, less hard on themselves, more willing to just do it. I want them to embrace their strengths, recognise their weaknesses, and I want them to have a resolve that can stand the test of time. I want them to trust their judgment. I want them to recognise the difference between right and wrong. I want them to be sociable, learn about teamwork, but also learn about a single point of failure where it's on them and them alone. I want them to value hard work, integrity, friendship, value others that add value to them. I want to build trust, respect, and I want them to be all-round good humans. I want them to appreciate the little things. I want them to recognise their strength, realise what they are capable of, and above all else, I just want them to be happy. Here's what I don't want. I don't want them to be lost to distraction, become mindless, careless, ignorant to the outside world. I don't want them to get lost in the endless cycle of scrolling. I don't want them to place value on the words of others above their own. I don't want their value governed by outdated systems and practices. I don't want them to be labelled and ignored or overlooked because they didn't fit in or they didn't fit the criteria for whatever box is being ticked. Both boys respond differently. Maxie will take setback, maybe because he's younger or more competitive. Henry is so hard on himself. He loses and it's the end of the world. He struggles to get back on track. But what he has is this steely resolve. He'll lose time getting angry and frustrated, but then when he's back in the game, he gets it done. The thing about H that's different to Maxie, he was growing up fearless. Maxie, I think, has tapped into that and copied him from a young age. Henry will try something new, but he'll think about it for a while, but he will give it a go. Both boys are being taught that setback is part of it, that they must work hard to earn things. There must be a recognition that what they put in is what they get out. Do I think I'm doing enough to make them resilient? I don't know. I can't be sure. Did I understand setback? Not really. I always got up, but eventually it took its toll, and that's what we're here to avoid. Did I know to bounce back? Did I ever do enough to get where I should be? That's the gap I'm trying to fill. So when you look at this question back, what do you want for them and how can you deliver it? Are you capable of doing so? That's not designed to undercut your value. That's the question that helps you shape who you need to become. Are you drained of your resources, and is that stopping you taking that next step? To be clear, we are all capable of leading our children. But first, I think we need to understand the world around them and the world we've brought them into, because the environment will either enrich or it will lead them astray. My setback in 2020 taught me that holding on to past failure will cripple you when you least expect it. It will leave you fearing the future, and it will make failure harder to overcome. What we need to understand is how to translate this into a message that our kids understand, and one that doesn't create a barrier. Because ultimately, they're always going to look to you for approval. What I had to ask myself in 2020 was this: was I good enough to give them that approval, or was something standing in my way? See, I may have been broken temporarily, mentally, emotionally, the kind of break that leaves scars, but since then, I've stayed focused on my promise to myself, my wife, and my boys. I will never be taken down like that again. But here's the tension How do you take what you've learned the hard way and give it to kids who are 5 and 8? How do you teach resilience in a world that wants to make everything comfortable? How do you find the right moment to say, yeah, this is hard, but that's okay? Before they go to school, they're safe. When they go to school, we become their safe space, that safe place to escape to when they've had a tough day. And what they learn at home must see them through the next day's challenges. You see, we want to create strong humans, mentally and emotionally strong. Physically strong, that's up to them. We can encourage a healthy lifestyle, the right food, encourage sports. But what we need to give them right now in 2025 is a place where they feel empowered, able to talk about their feelings, admit when they've made mistakes, and realise what they're capable of becoming. Henry has had some tough days. He's a boy's boy. He's in a class dominated by boys and male personality. He's trying to find his place in that group. He's trying to find his identity. He's someone who's happy to challenge, not always in the right way, but he'll stand up for himself. The thing with boys is, we've got to be exercised. We need to run, play, fight, make bases, let out all that energy. Even as a grown-up, I feel better when I'm outside or I'm busy. But what they do, 9 to 3, they sit. They have time for lunch, a morning break and an afternoon break. That's it. So they have all this energy that comes out at home. And that's why our role in these early interactions are so important. I don't always get it right. There are times when I have to smooth things over, when I want to protect them from the pain of losing or failing. But I know that's not real protection. Strength in 2025 is different. Masculinity is being diluted, and what were strong male characteristics are in some cases deemed unacceptable. Would you rather they embrace your values and beliefs, or those of someone entrusted to look after them and teach them? One of the biggest issues I've had with my son's school is the lack of male role models, strong male leaders, someone for them to look up to outside the home. So our place in their world is bigger. We need to be more present, more connected and more disconnected from the outside world and ready to show up and ready to listen. As a boy dad, I know the energy that bubbles under that surface. In my view, strength today is about a willingness to value who you are and what you stand for, regardless of your situation or environment. And that's what we owe our kids. We owe them transparency, authenticity, and we need to teach them how to value you first before valuing the thoughts and opinions of others. We need to educate them on what real education is. Yes, grades are important, and a rounded knowledge is important too. I worry that our educational structure and people within it just can't keep up. Our kids need to learn the value of many things, but with the tools at their fingertips that are designed to answer and provide knowledge. The skill is in the ability to solve the problem and ask the right questions. So strength today is forged at home in the right environment, but it's shaped by who you are, what you stand for, and where you're headed. If you're easily distracted, comfortable with the world you find yourself in, and you find yourself engaging just enough to build a bond, then what are they learning? Your love is one thing that can never be taken away. But your invincibility, your aura, your value, those things diminish if you're not prepared to meet their needs and to show them how it's done. Take Henry. He will try something new. He'll hesitate at first, but he'll do it. He'll pose questions, but if it's a challenge, then he'll do his best to see it through. If it sparks his interest, then he's invested. If it's routine, mandatory, and the spark isn't there, then he'll participate, but he won't throw himself in. Our boys need a strong male influence. Early years education isn't going to deliver that. And by the time they've hit secondary school, they're burning out and you begin to lose them. They're fighting against the tide of distraction and fatigue early. I don't have all the answers, But what I know is this: setback is where they will find their strength. Resilience isn't taught through lectures, it's lived. These lessons are taught in how I respond when things go wrong. And it's in the moment that they lose when they learn the most about themselves. That response in the moment will help them fail and then choose to rise again. That's the model I want to give them. That's the father I'm desperately trying to become. But more importantly, my warning is this: don't outsource to the education system and expect your kids to succeed without the right support, encouragement, and discipline at home. They face uncertainty every single day, but the influence of others, teachers, kids, and the parents of those kids can have and will have a profound impact on your kids' mood, their confidence, and their self-worth. So create a safe space, a place where they can vent, a place where they can flourish. You're never too busy to give them what they need. Our willingness to engage, lead by example, and teach them about the pressure they'll face and need to overcome cannot be overlooked. Right now, I'm focused on showing them that failure is part of the process and not the end of it. That every time they fall, they get to decide who they want to be next. But I'm also teaching them that tomorrow is another day. If today didn't go to plan, then it's not the end of the world. It's just a lesson and we move past it. And I'm realizing the best thing I can do isn't to fix, it's to walk with them while they figure it out. It's to help them solve the problem and not dive in to save the day. Our approach to fatherhood demands so much more. We must build strong children so that they can lead, navigate the world with confidence and with their heads held high. I cannot control what's outside the door, who they interact with, and how those people interact with my boys. But I can teach my children that you value yourself before you value the thoughts, opinions, and judgments of others. I want them to know that no matter what, Dad's clear on his role. He's confident in his approach, and he's willing to get down to their level and understand the problem without reaching immediately for all the answers. It's not the perfect approach, but I know what I can control, and that's the distraction. It's creating moments to connect and moments where they can find their strength. So ask yourself, are you raising your kids to be strong enough to face life, or just comfortable enough to avoid it? If you're prepared to answer, drop a comment below, or you can DM me, or you can drop us an email at hello@themodernfatherhoodclub.com. I'd love to hear your take on today's episode, and I'd love to hear how it's getting you to think about how you're going to help them navigate the difficulties of the world outside. We owe it to them to understand what's outside the door. We owe it to them to teach them the skills that are necessary to make sure that that internal world keeps them on track, that helps them forge their path to greatness, because that's our role. That's what we signed up to be. We're not here to add to the distraction. We're here to help them break it down, understand the process, understand what's important. I truly believe they cannot understand what's important unless you understand what's important to you and you live aligned to what's important to you. So start small, let them struggle, show them how to stand back up, and do it with love, not panic. Be aware of the world wanting them to conform, to follow the patterns and to never challenge. Be clear on the role you play, the impact you have, and how you can influence how they both handle setback and the world outside. This episode has been different. I had to voice my worry, not just for my kids, but for kids growing up today. Because if the parents are distracted, then the kids are growing up in a lawless system where they're fed what feeds the addiction, softens the resolve, and damages their image of themselves. We cannot sit back. We cannot outsource parenting and education to the institutions. We must make a stand, make a promise to ourselves and our partners that together we will ensure that they see the positives, play to their strengths, and recognise the dangers hiding in the shadows. You're not alone in this. If you're in the thick of it, balancing work, life, fatherhood, dreams, take a moment to answer the questions in this episode. Consider the impact of your decisions and recognize you cannot control it all. But the stuff we can control must sink in and help shape who they become. It's a tough world out there. It's fast-paced, challenging at times, but with your support, understanding and commitment, they'll be okay. And you will too. Life and fatherhood, they're not about survival. It's about choosing to try something different. That's why this podcast exists. Your kids don't need a perfect dad. They just need you. You don't need more time. You need more clarity, more conviction, and a reminder that your presence, well, that's the point. What you need more than anything is to choose to set the standard and then raise your game. Not by throwing yourself into work, but by throwing yourself into the life at home, in the moments with your kids and your partner. Your standard will set the tone. It will create a vision for their future, one that you can nurture over time. This isn't about making sweeping changes. This is all about taking a step forward today, another tomorrow, and doing it every single day. If you start today, where will they be in the future? What path will they follow? And how much will you and they grow? And more importantly, what will that bond be like? As always, write it down, dive into the detail, create something so powerful and unique that you cannot wake up and not move towards it. Your change, any change has got to be necessary, but it's got to leave the mark. Become the role model you know they need and inspire your next generation to pursue the things they love, passion, life and happiness. Because it can be done, but the bigger question is, are you prepared to deliver it? So I've talked a lot this week about the influences of others and the influences of the outside world on your kids, but also the influence inside your home. Because it isn't just how you show up, because you're the enabler to a lot of the distraction. Your provision of things like YouTube, iPads, whatever, that can dilute their enthusiasm for life. That can create a shift in the dynamic within your home. Sometimes we do have to take a step back and help them understand that there's more to the world than the screens. There's more to the world than just being told what to do. But we also have to entrust in them a sense of self-worth, confidence, strength, passion, love, a willingness to try new things, a willingness to take risks, a willingness to shut down the voice of others that adds no value. That is what builds strength over time, and it is over time. You're going to have to battle as they get older. You're going to set boundaries, they're going to test them. You're going to set rules, they're going to break them. We did. I know I did. But we didn't have the extra layer of distraction. We didn't have access to everything immediately. We knew how to be bored. We knew how to play. Look, I'm not saying technology should be ignored. I'm not saying that our children don't need to understand it. But I believe they need to understand the impact of it. I believe they need to understand how it can work positively, but how for most it can have a real negative impact on the way that they see the world. That's your job, is to understand the positives and the negatives and to put a case together so that they understand it. But it's also to encourage them to embrace who they are. Embrace their strengths, play to their strengths, let no one talk down to them. But it's also to help them find value in the friendships. But it's also to help them find their place, understand their value, and make sure that their contribution to the world is recognised. That they understand who they are, what they stand for, what's important to them. They understand the cost of not following their dreams, but they understand the benefit of doing so too. We're fathers, we have to lead, we have to guide, we have to inspire, but we also have to understand the pitfalls of today's society. So, if any of this has resonated, please like and subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. And if you're interested in taking it further, join the Modern Fatherhood Club and access some of our other resources. There is a guide out there for avoiding burnout and focusing on the right things, and that's available for free. And for those of you willing to take a step up and elevate your fatherhood story and become a truly present dad, the new Dad Recharge is available right now for £49. And we're throwing in Fatherhood Unleashed to keep you honest, accountable, and focused on your impact. Plus, There's a load of other bonuses included too, and you'll have access to all our free resources as a member of the Modern Fatherhood Club. As always, I'm Aidan. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Friday Fuel. This has been Answer Me This, part of the Fatherhood in Focus podcast. I will see you soon.